You're listening to the Floyd Main Street Podcast. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm your host, Lucas Graham, back for another edition of this week's Floyd Main Street Podcast. Joining us today are our regulars, Mr. Eric Branscombe, a.k.a. the Colonel.
I am here in uniform and ready to roll.
Ready to roll. Got that chicken boiling. Chad Harris also joining us. Chad, how's it going?
I'm good, man.
As Chad likes to pick on me all the time, I don't say it anymore, but I'm going to specifically say it this time. Got a lot to unpack today.
Oh, boy, here we go. Get your suitcase out.
Yeah, we got another board meeting. Thanks, Chad. The school system's doing some hiring. The Verizon outage. That was a big one in Floyd. It was a nationwide outage, but a lot of us here in Floyd were affected by it. Planning Commission, Town Council, and school board information coming at you.
We got events and things are just happening.
Yeah.
But most of all, it's the return of winter.
It is settled in. Old man is here, ain't he?
Didn't take any time for that to happen, so I was hoping we might get that 60s and 70s weather all the way through to March.
I'm bad about complaining when it's too hot and complaining about when it's too cold, but man, every winter I'm reminded that summer's the superior weather over winter, that's for sure.
Well, as the advancing years catch up with me, warm weather in Florida looks better all the time.
Good way to put it. As the years advance.
As the years advance. And the heating bills climb.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, Chad, I'm going to let you kick it off here with some board meeting. That's usually our number one go-to, so have at it.
Now, hold on. We had two board meetings since we last covered them, didn't we? Had the reorganization meeting as well as a regular board meeting.
We did, that's right. The reorganization meeting stayed the same. Joe Turman's still the chairman, Jerry Booth, co-chairman. They assigned some board members and such to different boards throughout the county that they're responsible for, like the tourism and different boards. Not a whole lot there that would probably draw anybody's interest, but moving on to the actual board meeting on the 13th, that was about 4 hours and 57 minutes. And they started it off just like they always do, where they made their approvals on the meeting minutes and such. Dr. Cromer was the first speaker up. She gave a report on the school board meeting. They had their reorganization meeting, and she reported that there's 1,609 students enrolled. The school has planned events for the 250th birthday of America.
So they're starting to pop up all over.
Yeah, I'm seeing that America 250 a lot of places.
She's got a lot of events planned with the students and the teachers. They're going to do a time capsule among a few other things, so some pretty interesting stuff they got planned there. She said that the school was presented the budget from the state, and that includes a 2% raise for teachers. David Clark was next up. He spoke, and of course the board members presented their problems in each district, which roads they'd like to see attention drawn to, potholes and things of that nature.
That was particular attention to Mr. Phillips, because that was one of the main things that he ran on, was addressing issues in Indian Valley roads.
From what part of the board meeting that I did watch, he was very vocal in making that known. He even made that statement. He said that's one of the main things I campaigned on.
Well, you can go back and watch the reorganization meeting. At the end of that meeting, during board time, Walter brought up his opinion on reopening the Indian Valley Rescue Squad.
Right.
And that being one thing that he had ran on too. So
I was watching that. I did see that that was an issue that he wanted to do that, and then it was just a matter of, now this is what the board claimed, and this is what the chair claimed, as well as the county administrator were claiming that there was more than enough money there, but there just wasn't interest.
I remember one of the times that we had Miss Bechtold on, she echoed that sentiment, that it wasn't a financial issue, it was a hiring issue.
you say that, but I tend to remember a board meeting during public discussion, and I want to say it was a fellow from out in Czech that was speaking on getting Station 3 opened back up. And after he had talked his 4 minutes, he was told by the board that they would have to raise taxes in order to open these rescue squads back up fully. To staff them 24/7 would be so many cents on the dollar that they would have to raise taxes. And of course, then in that meeting, they said that they had money set aside. So I'm a little unclear on, do they have the money for all of it, or do they just have the money for funding of staff?
Yeah, is the money there or is it not? And then the other question is if you have enough money there based on old amount, what do you do about if you kind of combine some of those positions so you can pay more money? Because it seems to me it's just a matter of if you make it attractive, then some people are going to want to take the job, right?
I would agree with you wholeheartedly. They're just like law enforcement. Look, nobody wants to do these jobs,
right?
And they have problems staffing these positions. You can't just pull any Joe Blow off the street and expect them to be a paramedic. It's just not for everybody. And so, I feel like the pool of applicants probably aren't there. They're probably not getting a lot of interest. And plus, like you say, the pay. I mean, you can go to other counties employees and make more money. So
it's like this. If you're paying X amount of dollars, but if over in Montgomery County they're paying like $10,000 more, you're going to go to Montgomery County. But if you can match that, if you can combine the positions and use that money, then you make yourself competitive with them.
Well, one thing that was brought up was Kim Cheeto said that they had offered a $6,000 sign-on bonus for rescue members to kind of attract more applicants. And I believe she said 6 of the ones that were hired that accepted the bonus, 3 of them had to give the $6,000 back, and 2 of them give partial.
Right.
So they were able to hire them based off that. They just couldn't either retain them for whatever reason. Maybe they got certified and went across the bridge to another jurisdiction.
Yeah, I think that comes down to what you're paying them. Is it really competitive so that somebody feels like, well, $6,000 might get your interest in it, but then when it comes right down to it, the economics say go to Pulaski County, go to Wythe County, go to Roanoke City, something like that.
One thing that you combat too is the board and the people that go to the board, like Sheriff Craig. He's been so good over the years of fighting for more money for his people. But the thing about it is you fight and you say, okay, we've got to get on a competitive level to compete with the Montgomery counties and the Roanoke County so it gets passed. And that next fiscal year, you're now at a very competitive rate that you're paying. But then all these other jurisdictions are doing the same thing that we're doing.
That's right.
They're increasing their pay. And so it's always almost seems like it's a little bit of a catch-up, or you have to stay aggressive in that to even be in the same ballpark.
It's a constant pay study is what it is around the River Valley. Like 3 agencies will be higher than the fourth one. The fourth one will do a pay study, get their pay rate up comparable, and then the other 3 are doing pay studies or getting raises. And it's
bounces
just,
back.
Yeah, it's just constant. But there's got to be other things out there. I don't know. There's one idea about the daycare that shut down here in town. Maybe the county could look into something like that, offering a daycare for employees.
Red Rooster has proved how effective that is. That's completely different as a private coffee company,
right,
versus an entire county. Logistically, that's a big difference, but they've gotten national spotlight about how good they are to their people and that they offer that in that daycare, and there's employees that work there that work there simply because the child care.
But that's not the real issue. The real issue is cupping.
Wouldn't be a podcast episode without some public
You got to
cupping.
have a little public cupping.
Exactly. So moving on, they discuss the priority list and the 6-year plan, and they kind of go through priority list road by road and decide whether or not they want to keep it, move it. So if that's something that interests you, definitely go back and watch that meeting because they show every road that's on that plan and they go through it there. Mark Bolt, next one up. He talked about the Willis convenience site.
Now, is this the site that we were talking about before that had the grading issue that was like $1 million to grade?
Yeah. So they looked at an alternative site that was squashed. They presented a new grade plan, but in order to have that plan drawn up, it's going to cost them another $14,000. For studies.
Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh. It's our tax dollars going to that.
A couple of supervisors brought it up. We feel like we're getting held hostage here. It's like every time we want a plan done or we want to know how much this is going to cost, we have to give them more money. That's kind of where it's at, is give us $14,000 more and we'll tell you if this plan will work.
And this is the Willis site that's really convenient for people that live way down right near the Carroll County line.
Yeah. It's the one just probably a mile within the Carroll County line on 221.
What are some of the roads right around there?
Shady Grove, Sugar Tree.
Sugar Tree. It's going to be very convenient.
Those in the heart of Willis refer to it as the inconvenient site. Yeah. But Mark believes that they can cut this $1 million down off of this plan that's presented that they're going to have to pay for these studies, and that puts them in around $300,000 final, give or take. That will include a 9-degree incline grade coming in to your green boxes. That's pretty steep. Of course, that's going to have to be paved. It won't be gravel.
Pardon my ignorance, but is that for like water runoff?
No, it's just the lay of the land.
Oh, that's just how it sits already.
Yeah, so it's just the way the land
just kind of
lays.
begs the question whether or not this piece of property is actually useful for that purpose.
You know, it's funny that you say that. There was a lot of discussion on it, and this alternate site was like 2 acres, but the landowner supposedly wanted like $100,000 for it. And Joe is pro the site that they bought.
The one that's near his house.
He kind of was against squashing the alternative site because he felt like they wanted too much for the land. But then Walter Phillips brought up the fact that, well, if we're going to have to spend $300,000 to put it on this property. Wouldn't it be cheaper to pay $100,000 for 2 acres and put it down here? Which I thought was...
Makes a little better sense.
Yeah, it's good conversation. I don't know what the best thing to do is there, but they are discussion options still, and they aren't 100% sold on this one particular site.
Any of y'all remember what made them choose Willis? Was it just based off how the green boxes were lined up?
So the county's trying to put a convenience center in every district,
Okay.
every area of the county.
I couldn't remember how it all started.
Obviously, they're not making land every day, and this particular piece of land was affordable for the county, and so that's where they bought it, and that's where it ends up at.
Yeah.
It's just not in probably a premier location for everybody in Willis.
Right.
I guess the thing about it is, if you're going to make that a convenience center and you're going to leave the green boxes that are in Willis alone, Kyle Weeks and up at Topeka Church and all that, then that's fine. I don't think you're going to hear a lot of chin music from anybody in Willis. But if you're going to pull every green box from Laurel Branch, Kyle Weeks, all those, and move them to that one particular site near the county line, then I think that's when people are going to start having problems with it. And that's the way it was presented when it was first brought to the board, was that's what was going to happen. So if that's not what's going to happen, then I think the board should be a little more clear on this is what we're doing.
Right.
It's just my opinion.
I'm assuming the end goal would be having those convenience centers in every district and then a removal of your traditional green boxes.
Indian Valley covers a wide range of areas, and some parts of Indian Valley aren't that accessible to other parts.
Yeah.
Right.
So you've got people at one end of Allen Ridge versus the other end.
Great idea in theory, but I think there's a lot of logistical hurdles.
This question sticks in the back of my mind a lot. Are we just spoiled? Are we just spoiled to the fact that there's been a green box on every corner and it hasn't been a problem until now? Other jurisdictions, they have these convenience sites, and I'm sure it's not convenient for everybody. So, is it just the matter that we're just spoiled and that's what we're used to and we just don't like change?
I think that's part of it. The other part of it is that when you have more places for people to put their refuse, then you're going to have less illegal dumping. The harder you make it for people to get to these places, although you want to make them perfect and so that they're bear resistant, etc. The problem is that you're going to end up with people just doing dumping on their own alongside the roads where there's a blank area along the side of whatever street or road.
We're already seeing it.
And you're going to see more and more of that because as you make these places more inaccessible, you have an enforcement issue where people are just dumping, often at places where there used to be green boxes.
When I hear these crazy numbers for grading, going back to like the 1.2 and all these really high numbers, it probably doesn't even come close to what this total would be, but it makes you think about at-home trash pickup, if it's once a week, or what kind of investment that would cost the county, like residential pickup.
One thing about this convenience center that they did talk about was going with the compactors. I think moving towards that probably saves the county some money in the long run as far as trash trucks goes. You don't have to have trash trucks if you've got all compactors, but we'll see what happens there.
Didn't somebody say before they're not making trash trucks anymore?
Maybe Galinda that was talking about, was it the fire trucks maybe or the trash trucks?
Somebody told her they weren't making trash trucks anymore. I find that hard to believe.
I imagine they're still making trash trucks.
They got to be still making trash trucks. I'm
yeah.
sorry. Somebody needs trash trucks somewhere.
That's right. We talked about this. Levi Cox was one that had raised caution on investing more money with no estimation on an end cost. Now, that was one concern of his. Mark stated that there were 7 green box sites total that have been removed in this county thus far, and touched on that every year it seems like it's getting worse because of the bears. There was a suggestion made to open this up for new bid. I think that's how they voted as far as the $14,000 goes, investing it on getting the site put in and what it's going to cost.
Right.
Ultimately that's going to be the deciding factor. But if you've got $100,000 in a piece of land and you just keep throwing money into it, at some point you're committed.
Throwing money down a hole sometimes.
Speaking of holes, Mark brought up the aging elevator in the new government building. That's about $80,000 to replace.
Wait a minute. Which new government building are we talking? We talking about the former bank building, the one that was a steal to get for $2 million. And now we're going to have to pay $80,000 to get a new elevator.
New elevator. And it sounds like the courthouse is in the same shape.
Somebody actually got stuck in the elevator very temporarily the other day. But
anybody that works in the courthouse knows better than to ride that thing on purpose.
I think they're all operating on borrowed time the way it sounds.
What was it Kalinda was talking about? We're talking about body cams and things that there was only just a couple of companies, not body cams, tasers.
people having the monopoly.
And having the
things.
monopoly on it, but it's probably the same way with that.
There's Otis and there's another one, Schindler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
So one's in one building and one's in the other. They made mention that there was 2 parts missing on one of those elevators. I can't remember if it was ours or the ones in the county building, but they didn't make the parts anymore. But the elevators still work properly. They're just missing some parts.
I'm sure that's not important.
And what's these gears for? Oh, we don't need that. So they showed final plans for the government building remodel. Walter asked if they found any money if they got to keep it.
Inside the empty bank building?
Yeah, while they were doing the remodel.
Any hiding in the walls or in the ceiling?
Kim said, we ain't found any yet. I thought that was funny.
I did hear about them finding some other things that we can't discuss on this podcast up in the rafters up there in the old bank building that maybe led to some stories of some employees back in the day doing some things on duty that maybe they should have saved for in private.
So they moved on to their public hearing on planning fees. There were no speakers for that. Carla Turman spoke regarding the changes. The next up was Speaker Sheriff Brian Craig and Captain Clemens. Sheriff touched on the 2 deputies that we had graduating the academy. They actually graduated this last Thursday. We got 1 new deputy hired, Tyler Thomas. Spoke on our Shop with the Cop and Angel Tree. Both were a success. He purchased a bike for special education. That was money left over through Floyd Cares, and he was able to buy a bike for them and donated it to the high school. He talked about Celebrite, which is a cellular analysis device to download data. And this was all based off of a grant that was written by Captain Clemens. That grant was a little over $100,000. I think since Captain Clemens has been writing grants for our department back in 2023 or 2024, he's able to obtain about $165,000 total in grants.
That's awesome.
So
Nice.
he is doing an outstanding job.
He's a
there.
man when it comes to the grant stuff.
Yeah, he really is. Got to give credit where credit's due. He's really good at that. But on this particular grant, it was a forensic grant, and he was able to get 4 forensic scopes, which is a DNA collection device, along with paying for this Celebrite software. So good job there. They moved to public comment. Paul Kitchen was the first speaker. He gave a brief update on the electoral board. Frank Rudisol spoke, and his discussion was on an in-state maintenance sign and having that moved. Doug Weddle spoke on the proposed housing development over off of Woods Gap Road. Jeff Camp spoke on a road condition, and then they moved on to board discussed priority list for VDOT. There were some new names that were voted upon in the county. First one being Cedarview Lane and Remy Ridge Lane. Those were both approved. They moved into closed session for a little bit. When they come out, they had board time. During that board time, Walter brought up concerns about the Indian Valley School parking lot, wanting that paved. Linda DeVito had requested there be a joint meeting with the EDA and the school board this year. Both boards meeting and having discussions there, which is funny to me because didn't we have that discussion?
Well, we had that discussion with Kalinda about the meeting with the school board, and then I seem to remember at the tail end of the December 11th meeting that the board went out of their way to say that they didn't need to have joint meetings with the school board because they were doing so great without having those joint meetings because they all talked the same language and didn't need to have any of these meetings anymore.
You dropped your spoon.
Oops.
No, she did say that because I remember her exact answer. I was looking at her when she answered when he asked why they didn't meet the school. Was it the school board, correct?
Talking about joint meetings with the school board because between the two of them, it's quite a bit of money that's involved.
To ask her why they didn't meet, and she paused for a second. I don't know. It did pose a really good question, so I'm glad to hear that both boards are meeting because, like you said, there's a lot of mutual interest there.
It was brought up by Linda DeVito that she wants to have those meetings.
Now, whether or not they'll actually do that, I imagine that comes down to whether or not
I guess that'll be up to the chairman.
the chairman, if they want to.
Or both chairmen. So the chairman of the school
both
board.
those,
And,
right.
So moving on to the county administration report, there's new key codes for the government building. There was a meeting with VDM.
What's VDEM?
Virginia Department of Emergency Management.
Ah.
So I think they have this VDM meeting to discuss emergency service coordinator and kind of what their foreseeable plans were with that and just making sure that they kind of got the nod from VDM on, yeah, this sounds like a good plan.
And we have a new emergency management coordinator at the moment. Now, is that an official long-term thing, or is he still interim?
It's my understanding that they absorbed the position of emergency service coordinator. However, they doled out the responsibilities to 2 people, one being Danny Lowry and the other being Dustin Thomas, who's over rescue. Dustin will be handling the fire and rescue side of things. Danny will be handling the dispatch and the law enforcement side of things.
Okay.
Danny has all the certifications that are needed for the emergency service position. He's good to go. So basically what you're doing is instead of just having one emergency service coordinator, now we've got two.
Okay. We had Kevin Sowers before. He's retired. And now we have Danny Lowry and Dustin.
The way Danny explained it to me was he was going to take a role more on the admin side of it and working on, like you said, with the sheriff's office, the 911 side of it. And then Dustin, since he has the career in EMS, was going to take the more field side of it in the field.
I think it's going to be a good thing. I really do.
I remember that it was a temporary thing when it first came out.
Yeah.
And now it's kind of been further defined.
I have not heard if that plans to be permanent or if it's still interim.
Did they advertise that?
Emergency service coordinator was a part-time position until Kevin Sowers was hired back in 2010 or whenever that was. So now that they've split up the job titles to these two other positions, which I think allowed them enough money to hire another IT position.
Oh, I see.
Which we've talked about and the county's advertising for. Mm-hmm. I think what you're doing's going to work just fine. I really do. And then they talked about the ProCom meeting on the radio towers, and that's it. We're done.
That's it? What? Wake up, Lucas.
I know.
He's done.
Moving on.
I'm just so efficient, Eric.
That's it. Well, I know. I know you take your cue from others that are that efficient.
So efficient.
You know, it's important to take time every now and then to stop and just talk about how efficient we all are.
We are efficient.
The more you talk about it, the less efficient you are.
The better we are. It's obviously, if we have to stop and talk about how efficient we are, we're obviously very efficient.
They went from having a 10-hour board meeting to almost 5.
There you go.
So the board's getting more efficient.
50%
Everybody's
right
more
there.
efficient. Yeah.
Word of the year, 2026, efficiency. Keeping it local government and things, the school system actually, and you're talking about them presenting before the board, but I saw that the school system made some social media posts that they're hiring bus drivers.
The poster boy for that is none other than Julius Dickerson.
Okay, go ahead and name somebody better.
Papa J.
Nobody better for that. Look at smiling face.
Big smile from Papa J.
If y'all know Julius, you know that man's always smiling. He's good people. There are 3 requirements to be a bus driver here in Floyd. Valid driver's license, clean driving record, I should say. And this one might be the hardest one of them all for some people. Reliable and punctual.
That's not going to be me.
Yeah. You know, a lot of people I've known over the years that took bus driving as a part-time gig because they could go drive in the morning and then go to a job during the day, come back and drive the bus in the afternoon. Yeah. But definitely school system, and they've got a great transportation director, so you'd have a pretty good boss if you decide to drive a bus. I might be a little biased, but Paul's a pretty good guy.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in that. But outside of that, how many people's phones stopped working last week?
Oh, yes. That was the big thing on Thursday, the Verizon phone outage. Certainly a nationwide story and a regional story. It happened here, too.
It was about lunchtime, about noon, all the way through that evening.
Yeah, for several hours.
I tell you what was fantastic about it is during that time, I received absolutely 0 spam or robocalls. And that's how I knew that the network was back up, because I looked down at my phone and said,
boom, boom, boom.
Spam call. I'm like, oh, well, I guess Verizon's back up.
Yep.
But I'm glad that they got that fixed, and they have offered everybody a $20 credit.
Well, there you go.
But
it's all better.
You have to go online and fill out the form and do all the things to apply. It's not automatic credit.
You're never going to get that $20.
Yeah.
Planning Commission. I should have mentioned this right after the board meeting, but the Burks Fort has an opening, Burks Fort District for the Planning Commission. Trying to pull that up. Can anybody tell me what that would entail on the Planning Commission?
Well, the Planning Commission is when people they want to say put in a subdivision or divide property up or do something like that. They go to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission checks it out, makes sure that it meets the local regulations and so forth, and they approve it or disapprove it based on what they're seeing. And then it goes to the board of supervisors for final approval or disapproval.
Yeah, I think the state really controls a lot of what they can and can't do.
Right.
So there's not a lot of decisions there, I don't think, that gets made through them now.
Some jurisdictions that have zoning, that's more of an issue where the planning commissions come to effect. We don't have as much of that going on here.
Yeah, and so this is one of them things, too, just so everybody's aware. So Richard Telling was on that board up until, I guess, the end of December. And the board had decided, instead of just reappointing or asking Mr. Telling, hey, do you want to be reappointed to this board for the next term, now they're advertising for that. That way, anybody can apply. And then, of course, the board still decides who they appoint there. But I think it's in order to create fairness for everybody and have more transparency for those that are interested in being on those boards.
Right.
Well, it says that the position is a 4-year term and it is effective January of 2026. Letters of interest should be received in the office of the county administrator, P.O. Box 218, Floyd, Virginia, by 4 o'clock p.m. or emailed to j.talbert@floydcova.gov. Those are due by Thursday, January 22nd. Questions may be directed to 540-745-9300, which is the county administration building. So if you live out there in the Berks Fork district, they're looking for somebody. Checking that one out. Keeping it back in town, though, outside of Berks Fork, we reported, was it last week or the week before, that there was a town council member?
We were talking about it last week, that there is an opening, that one of the town council members is stepping down, and that the town council was entertaining people that wanted to step into that.
Any update on that?
Just that they have had 2 people that were interviewed, and their final decision will be made at their next meeting in February.
So February, and then whoever the town appoints, they will be there for the rest of the term, and then we'll have to run for re-election if they wish.
Right.
Ending on the news this week, I'm seeing on the big board here, the school board recognized some of our student athletes.
As you remember, we had a number of athletes that went to state, and cross country, et cetera. There was a lot of that in the different teams and so forth, and the school board met with school officials and formally recognized all these people that went to state tournaments, won state championships, et cetera. That was good to see that everybody getting the recognition.
Shows you how long it's been since I've paid attention to this, but these athletes in the teams, are they still taking the team pictures and trophy and other hardware and posting it like in the gym? Remember, you'd have like the state teams on the big pictures on the wall and the banners for all the years. Is that still a thing? I don't know.
You're asking the wrong guy.
We're asking the wrong crowd. None of us in here would have any chance of knowing, but I always thought that was cool. You could just walk into a gym and immediately see the history of the sports program. But good for the school board for reaching out and recognizing our student athletes during that time. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Well, that should take care of our news this week. And as always, you guys know our news segment is sponsored by our local Farm Bureau office and Debbie Short. Here's the thing about Debbie. They have great rates on home, auto, and business and life insurance. And again, you don't have to be a farmer to have insurance with them. Debbie can help you out whether you have a farm or not. So Debbie's message to you this week is check them out. It's a free quote. You got nothing to lose and everything to gain. You know, those free quotes, she's not going to hassle you. I've had insurance agents in the past where, we'll give you a free quote. Well, a free quote comes with daily calls, text messages, and emails trying to get you to sign up. Debbie ain't going to do that to you. She's going to give you a free quote, and if she can beat your price and it's a policy that you want, she'll take care of you. So be sure to give them a shout out and check them out at Farm Bureau in Floyd. You can connect with Debbie today by calling 540-745-2021 or emailing Debbie.short@vafb.com. That's DEBBIE.SHORTT @V as in Victor, AFB.com. Coverage provided by Virginia Farm Bureau, Mutual Insurance Company, and affiliates.
All right. Well, that moves us on to events is the next big thing, right?
Yeah. I see the one you got wrote up here at the top.
Because it is clearly the most important event coming up in Floyd. Everybody needs to brace themselves and go into your closet, dig out the ukulele, and head on down to the library. February 7th from 10 to 12, you got ukulele lessons. Tiptoe through the tulips. It's time to get the uke and play.
At the library. I wouldn't expect them to have a ukulele.
I wouldn't know what a ukulele was if you smacked me in the head with one.
Well, it just so happens I have one right here.
Do you really? Let's see it.
Oh, man. And the DMV is going to be at the library. I was trying to keep other events here at the library going on, but this week, I know a lot of people are always asking on Floyd Group about when the DMV mobile is going to be back.
It's the end of the month. What date is that? The 29th?
The 29th, yeah. They're going to be back at the library. Keep that on your calendars. And honestly, it's a great service.
It really is.
I mean, for the transactions that you can do that will save you a trip to Galax or Christiansburg or Rocky Mount, Roanoke, God knows that those DMVs, you go in there and sit for hours.
Yeah.
But this allows you to just come in and out. It's limited to what they can do, but all your basic stuff, tags, licenses, all that kind of stuff, they can take care of you. There's going to be something coming up here that our production team, Mr. John, told us about, which was pretty cool. I thought it said substance abuse, but it actually reads substance use. Anybody got any info on that one? Because I cannot find it right now.
It's one of those peer-to-peer sessions where people go in with substance use issues.
Okay.
And it's part of an effort for more attention to the subject and to get people out there to discuss it. It's good to have more of these things, and I'm glad to see that we're seeing more of that because that's continuing to be an issue for the courts, obviously. I mean, we see that all the time, whether it's illegal substances or legal substances. People can use them and abuse them and have issues coming out of that.
I remember asking you one time as a prosecutor, how many crimes that were committed in the county would you say say had a basis of drug related, people that were on drugs. And I can't remember the specific what you said, but it was pretty much all of them.
The majority portion, if not 90%.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this in the past. We're one of the safest counties in the New River Valley.
Yeah.
But the crimes here are being largely driven by drug abuse, people using illegal substances and trying to find money to get those illegal substances.
Unfortunately, but I'm sure every family, you could ask individuals and say there's at least one person in your family that does currently or has battled with substance abuse issues. So it is a really good thing. I mean, it's free. They're having Subway cater it. It's open to the public, but it says topics including overview of the substance uses in NRV, lived experiences, community questions, resources and support that's available, and overdose prevention. So a really good thing. That's also being held at the library, and that is on January 28th from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. So be sure and check that out. Ends at 7:30. Spend the night. Go to the DMV truck the next day. Yeah, I like that. What's this youth art event coming up I'm seeing?
Well, the youth art exhibition is at the Floyd Center for the Arts, and apparently it started back in December.
I've not heard this. I'm sorry.
It goes through January 24th, and it's for art that's been produced by young folks from Floyd County High School and Blue Mountain School.
Oh, that's cool.
There's an exhibition for that. Feel free to go by and take a look at that and see what kind of art that the youth in our area have come up with.
It's just at the art center, so whenever their normal operating hours are, you can go by and it's on a public open display.
That's what I understand from reading that out there. So they had a reception for that. By the time people hear this, that'll already have passed, but it's an ongoing event.
Good deal. I think that's about all the events going on that we saw this week.
Time for true crime.
Yeah, we got our usual stuff at the brewery and the country store. You know, every Friday and Saturday night, there's going to be music going on in the county. Be sure to check those places out because it's always, some places have your regulars and then your country store has your featured events on Friday and Saturday night.
I'd ask everyone to keep in mind, check out the Wildwood down just south of town, about 3-4 miles south of town on 221.
I don't know what they had going on today, but they
Packed.
Packed.
Yeah, I saw that.
They're doing their jams. Once you hit the warm weather, they start doing them every week. But during the winter, they're not every week. You need to check in advance. But that's a great place to go. It's a wonderful location. It's one of Floyd County's hidden gems.
Chad was right, though. It's time for everybody's favorite.
True crime.
You got a good one for us this week?
Well, I don't know if it's a good one, but it's one about people making bad decisions.
That's the underlying theme of the true crime, isn't it?
Yes, indeed. So this dates back a little over 10 years, 2015. This is involving a lady by the name of Rita Diane Huff. Miss Huff was going through a difficult phase then, and what she was doing at the time was she was calling the 911 number constantly, over and over, just to talk to them. She was making complaints about various things that couldn't be verified, and she would call, and they would talk to her for a while and then try to get her off the phone because they're busy. They got to keep the lines clear. And as you know, Lucas, from working in dispatch, I mean, you can't have the lines tied up for too long. It puts other people in danger. So they'd hang up on her, and then shortly after that, she'd call back again. And quite frankly, she would call different offices around the county, and she was calling county administration. She was calling my office. She was calling the sheriff's non-emergency line.
Anybody would answer.
And anybody that would answer and was talking. And from the few times the deputies did go out and respond to her, it appeared that alcohol may have been an issue. So eventually, what happens when you do that too much, calling and tying up 911 emergency lines, is actually a crime in the state of Virginia. And the sheriff's office decided they wanted to take some charges out on her with that and went out to confront her and to serve her with those papers. One of the deputies went out there was deputies since retired from the force, Justin Coleman. And it's a class 1 misdemeanor, and she was in the process of being taken into custody to be processed for this violation when her mood shifted from being kind of sad and just wanting people to talk to being fairly violent, in which case she turned around and started swinging and then kicking at him and made contact with him in a certain private area of his body that he wasn't expecting.
Care to elaborate?
No, not particularly.
That's always what we're going to go for, though.
That's what in the business we call assaulting a law enforcement officer.
Yeah.
This went from being processed on a fairly minor misdemeanor charge to a class 6 felony assault on law enforcement. That wound its way through the courts. She ended up spending time in the New River Valley Regional Jail. She was eventually convicted in the circuit court with that and ended up pulling it's a mandatory minimum 6 months. So that's what she ended up pulling that and being put on probation for a while. I want to emphasize this. This was not just a first couple of times. This went on for a good long while, weeks and weeks. And I remember meeting with folks from dispatch. People had already been out to talk to her on multiple occasions and asked her to not be calling in unless she had a real reason to call in.
Was it the curse and abuse of 911? Was that the charge?
I don't think she was being abusive as far as the language. I think she was just, it's a violation for just calling up for non-emergency reasons and tying up the lines.
The only reason I ask is my question on that was from a prosecuting standpoint. When does that line cross, right? Because there might be people listening that didn't even know that you could get in trouble for misusing 911.
When you misuse 911, you can get in trouble for that. Now, I can tell you that that is an issue that has come up in every jurisdictions that I've worked with, and everybody tries to work with people because not everybody knows that. They're looking for whatever number to call the sheriff's office.
Right.
And you have lonely people out there, and they want to call and just find someone to talk to. And whether it's them or, the fire department, rescue squad, et cetera. Problem is, at some point, when you're doing an emergency service, you have to draw the line.
Yeah, it's always been the standard that you try to educate them first. If they call in, say, hey, call us back on our non-emergency line or whatever the case may be. So don't think that you call 911 one time, we're going to rush out with warrants. That's not the case. But I know, like in this particular case, she had called multiple and had been told, don't call on 911. She refused, still called back multiple more times. So she kind of forced our hand to have to pursue charges on that. That's not something that we like to charge on. But
no, nobody does.
I'm approaching year 13 of my career. And in the 13 years of taking 911 calls and working in the 911 field, every time that situation has come up, I don't think that it's never not been alcohol related. All right, what a true crime.
Well,
moral of the story, don't get drunk and repeatedly call 911.
And that's something I think we can all take away from that.
And then when you do that and the law shows up to tell you to quit,
don't kick them where the sun don't shine.
Every week we shout out to our sponsor, Safe Surfing, and all the things they do for us, and we always want to give some tips out. This week, our tip, courtesy of Safe Surfing, is talking to your kids about buying their first smartphone. So before you run out and purchase a smartphone for your child, please consider the following things. Research the security settings in that area available. Establish boundaries and rules for when and how they are allowed to use their phone. And here's the key. Stick to it. Teach your child to never reveal their cell phone numbers or passwords online to strangers, and talk to your child about the consequences of sending sexually explicit or provocative images or text. Let your child know that you will review their cell phone records regularly, looking for inappropriate activity. Some parents hold the phone overnight and return it the next morning just to make sure that they're unable to communicate late at night without the parent knowing. So just keep that in mind. Every parent's different when they think the right age is to give their kid a cell phone, but just know that we live in a world where there are predators out there, that not everybody has the best intention at heart. So just keep a monitor on your kid. It's perfectly okay to do that. We thank Safe Surfing and Eddie Worth for everything they do for us. We're here live at the Safe Surfing Plaza.
That's
in
right.
Downtown Floyd.
Downtown from the heart of Floyd.
Yeah.
In the heart of the Safe Surfing Plaza.
You can check their website out. We're going to post their number. Safe Surfing had requested that we get that directly to you. So if you're watching the podcast on YouTube currently, there should be a graphic there that will have the Safe Surfing number. We talked about them and with them every week. If it's an organization that you want to reach out to, if you're looking for some assistance in that area with your child or elderly loved one, reach out to them today, and we thank them for that.
Well, we also need to thank John Villegas for our production crew for keeping things rolling here.
The man who had his first Vittle Wagon burger. The Cheeseburgers of Floyd concept is working.
Getting people out to get some more cheeseburgers.
Yeah, we got to hit on that before we leave. Where's the next cheeseburger spot, or is it got to be a secret?
They just kind of come up as they do. I mean, there are several potentials because now we're expanding.
We brought John in, got him dewormed. Now we got him on cheeseburgers. We're going to put about 10 pounds on them before spring, I feel like. So,
have you thought about putting apple butter on?
Apple butter on a cheeseburger. There you go.
Yeah, he is right. He'll end up with
extra weight.
Hey, don't forget to like and subscribe. For those of you that already have, we appreciate it. I'm sorry I sound like a broken record, but it's really important because when people like Facebook throttle our post to where you can't see it, how do you combat that? You liking it and you subscribe. So it pops up automatically, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, Apple Music, iHeartRadio. What's our email, Chad?
Yeah, it's Floyd Main Street Podcasting at yahoo.com.
Easiest email ever, and I still can't remember.
Easiest email ever. That's right.
That'll do it for this week. week, though, we appreciate you guys listening. Seriously, I really do. I appreciate everybody that listens. I appreciate all the feedback that we get. Thank you to everybody that sends us something, because that's what keeps it going. And until next week, I'm going to remind you to take care of the ones you love and take care of yourself. Goodbye.
Treasures untold.